Think bulldog chewing a wasp. Tense every muscle on your face as if you're really squeezing the eyes, the mouth, the nose. Really go for it.
Welcome to another edition of Storytime. I'm your host, Steve Hatherly. My guest today is originally from Oxfordshire in the UK. He spent 18 years in the Royal Signals. The Royal Signals is a division of the British Army. That's a long time, but he spent even more time, 20 plus years, in the health and wellness industry. During his time in Asia, while also working in the EU, he has focused his work on wellness initiatives, mindfulness-based resilience, and well-being training and coaching for individuals and organizations, helping to reduce stress, increase mindfulness, and heal the disconnect in the workplace. Social mindfulness, and that will be the focus of our conversation today, has emerged as the best approach that will bring about greater social cohesion in the workplace. And if that's a new term for you, worry not, because Ian Matthews is going to tell us all about it. Ian Matthews, welcome to Storytime, sir. It's delightful to have you here.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's so great to meet you and to be here with the viewers.
We are new Facebook friends, and when I saw what you did for a living in your line of work, I immediately sent you a direct message and said, Ian, Mr. Matthews, can you come and do an episode with me? I think it would be really interesting. And you were kind enough to accept, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for the invite. It's just wonderful to be doing something, I love surprises, and that was a surprise. So thanks very much.
Absolutely. 18 years in the British Army. I feel like we could do an episode on that by itself.
Yeah, oh, definitely. They say, you can take the man out of the army, but not the army out of the man. And
I'll tell you
hopefully, go ahead.
I'll tell you what, that I made sure not to be a minute late for our meeting today, because I know a military man likes to keep a strict schedule.
I swear, Steve, honestly, it's still there, and I can still bark as loud as the biggest Alsatian if you like. But hopefully, that was tempered by this mindfulness stuff that I started to pursue when I left the army around about 2000. I was lucky because my hometown's Oxford. And in Oxford is the Oxford Mindfulness Centre, which without a doubt now is the center of the universe for mindfulness on every level, at every aspect, kids, schools, businesses, whatever. I was lucky. I lived down the road in a place called Woodstock, where Blenheim Palace, the birthplace of Winston Churchill. And I bimbled along to some of these places because I heard about this mindfulness thing, and it just blew my mind, because it's about attentional mind training. Essentially, it has a Buddhist past, but the mindfulness has taken that kind of stuff out. John Kabat-Zinn, friend of mine who created it, I spoke to him. He doesn't like it being called secular because he believes you've got to remember, it's come from Buddhist origins, but you can take a lot of the, let's say, more spiritual stuff out and just bring it to the masses, or bring it to the contemporary world. That's what he did. He shrunk it all down, and he made it into a stress reduction program. It's empirically tested more than any other kind of holistic healing method, if you like, that I know of, that anyone knows of, and it works. And biggest companies in the world are using it. Individuals are using it. Schools, like I say, colleges. And what does it do? It stops that mental chatterbox in your head from just taking you over.
Well, we're going to do,
as go ahead.
I was going to say, we're going to do a deep dive into the topic today, because I think it's something that, it's a term that I think probably everyone has heard of, but very few people know what it actually means in its true meaning, right? How did you, was it in the British Army that you started to think about a direction career-wise, or was it something personal that happened in your life that made you want to take a step in this direction? What was it that drew interest for you?
Yeah, interesting question. I mean, I loved my work. I was top of the tree. I became a foreman of signals, which is kind of like you'd say a British telecom, I don't know, Asia director or something like that, and top of the tree. And and the work was really exciting. I believed it had value. It was hopefully safeguarding the homeland and stuff like that. But in between all that, I noticed that there were times when things were just happening to me physically that I couldn't quite put my finger on. You love your job and you're working hard, sometimes 24/7, blah, blah, blah. In operational tours, sometimes, there's a lot of threats going on to your life and things, and you're managing a lot of manpower and soldiers and communication systems. But there was just things going on physically that I thought I probably need to check myself out here because it doesn't feel quite right. And you go to the doctors and then he says, you've got this, this, and this, and you need to have something to just maybe bring your level of, let's say, hypervigilance down, because I was, always active in what I'm doing. And they give you these medications to what they say, calm you down, if you like.
Like antidepressant?
Things like blood pressure.
Oh, okay.
No, definitely. Okay. It's not the mental side, it's more the physical.
Okay.
So you'd have like beta blockers. And this was in the 90s. And I thought, well, okay, if it's going to just help me and, make sure that I don't kick the backside out of my work so that it affects my health. But what, these medications, what I found even within a year, do like when a doctor injects your mouth and then you drink the water, but it's just dribbling out?
Yeah, right.
You're not really in control. The medications just dumb me down. And I was in communications, and in those days it was a lot of phone work, and I just found I was slurring, and I'm like, this is not good. I can't do my job. So I looked for something else, and by pure chance, I went to a local bookshop, and a mindfulness book quite literally dropped on my toe. And I'm like, what the heck's that? And it was by Jon Kabat-Zinn, and I read it, and I didn't understand much of it. It didn't kind of make sense. But something about it said to me, maybe it will help me to make sure my stress levels don't go too high. Cut a long story short, that was the start of an amazing journey where you realize that you're not your thoughts. You realize that the mental activity, that monkey mind, as it's sometimes called, or the chatterbox, is a storyline. And you can actually step back from that. And when you do that, you regain control of yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally. And amazing. You can do exercises to calm down with your breath. You can do exercises to scan the body to bring yourself down even more, slow the heart rate down, brain patterns down. You're back in control, Steve. So, it's all of a sudden the mind and body is working for you, not against you. And that's the power of mindfulness.
Let's dig in. Ian Matthews, are you ready for story time?
Yes, let's go for it.
Let's do it. All right. So where do we begin? This is a very big umbrella, if you will. It's a very broad topic, mindfulness. So where I'll let you tell me where you want to begin with the topic today.
Okay. Do you want me to tell you now, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to begin with the reality of what's going on in the world, and also try and make it applicable to our lives and in the workplace. There's a lot of instability going on in the world. I think everyone will agree. Some would call it chaos. And even in the coaching that I do, because I do a lot of coaching online now, one-to-one with people, executives, business people, whatever, you can just see, I've noticed in the last year, 2 years, with all this stuff that's going on, wars, pandemic, people are kind of losing their anchor, for want of a better word, mentally, definitely, and physically as well. And they don't know what to do about it, Steve. They don't have that method where by themselves they can drop anchor in a storm and stay calm, stay balanced physically, stay quiet mentally. In a nutshell, they're all over the place, and they're coming to me for various things in terms of coaching, mental and physical coaching. Could be health and fitness, could be self-care. It could be mental wellness, mental health.
By losing their anchor, you mean having maybe a lack of direction in life, or just a lack of a feeling of a lack of control over themselves in the chaos that's going on around them due to the perhaps largely due to the pandemic that we've been living through for a long time now?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I would call it a disconnect. I call it the great disconnect, actually. You've got these terms like the great resignation. I think the great disconnect is far worse for people. What do I mean by that? They're losing their sense of self. They're disconnected from their body because they're always up here. And their storyline is always worrying about the future or stuff that's going on in the past. That's going on in the workplace. We know that. And the workplace is now incoherent. Most people are just surviving, really, aren't they? And when you're in that survival mode, Steve, your body goes into fight or flight. And most people now are staying in fight or flight all the time. They just don't know it. So they're hyper vigilant all the time. They're stressed all the time. There's a feeling of threat. And evolutionary, the body will just go like this and say, bugger off connecting with this, that, and the other. I just want to be safe. And then when that happens, they disconnect from others around them. And then when you get to work, you put on a face that everything's all right, but it's more about conflict. It's me against them. It's blame game, judging, not really being engaged in what you're doing at work. But you kind of.
Is that new? Is this a new thing that you've seen, or is this just something now that you're bringing to light for individuals? Because that's one of the things that I wanted to ask today. And I'll make this question twofold. Number one, is this something new that you're seeing in people? And number two, is it now perhaps due to the pandemic? You mentioned the Great Resignation. I think I saw a statistic where 4.5 million Americans left their job in November of last year, the highest rate in 20 years for people quitting. So is it now a new thing, or is it just something now that is coming to light within people where they realize how unhappy or perhaps unstable they are?
Yeah, I with the greatest respect, I don't think the majority of people realize it. It's like they're trying to search for that sense of balance, which is actually all around them, and they're capable of just rebalancing themselves just with this, the mind, the body, breath work, meditation, a bit of exercise, movement, but they're searching outside of themselves for it, and I've seen this. I worked with the police and the fire service in the UK about 3-4 years ago, and I hadn't been back to England for years and years. And I couldn't help it. It's my job, mindfulness. I couldn't help but just kind of, noticing people. I don't watch or whatever, but noticing that the stress levels were just up. And everyone was just talking about stress all the time. And I got a commander to one side when we were having a cup of tea, and I said, I'm not being funny, buddy, but I just feel like everyone's wired these days. And he said, Ian, get used to it. He said, it's normal. We just accept it now that we're all wired. And I said, but what are you doing to bring yourself down? And he said, well, it's the normal thing. Go to the doctor, relax, take a chill pill, beta blockers, because the doctor doesn't really know how to make you relax. They're not taught to. Maybe go see a psychologist, clinical. That's again tends to be the first route. It's almost giving your power over straight away and saying, I can't fix myself. There's something wrong with me. It's not the case, Steve. There's nothing wrong. Stress has been going on for millennia.
Sure.
People knew how to deal with it 2,000 years ago. They've told us how to do it. And the programs are all there. You look at Ayurveda or whatever, it's telling you. But we're a million miles away from that now, because on our devices, we look on the internet for help. We maybe take substances for help, soju, smokes, whatever. That's what they're doing. They're trying to just calm themselves down, and everyone does it here in the UK, or the psychology, the clinical route. What I'm saying is there's a middleman, and that middleman is mindfulness, and it's proven, where you, with just a bit of practice on a daily basis, just using your breath, just using a bit of body movement and some simple meditation exercises, take all the woo-woo stuff out of the door. It's not about enlightenment, whatever. It's about calming your nervous system down. That's the key. That's the message I'd like people to take home. You have a nervous system and it's out of whack, like a guitar that's overtuned. You can tune it back with mindfulness. You really can. And then when you do that, everything changes. Everything in your life, your thinking is better, your focus is better, your relationships are better, and the workplace gets better collectively because you do all this together. You connect and you relate together. So here's the cohesion, not the incoherence coming back, just with social mindfulness practices at work.
We'll get to how this applies to the workplace in just a moment. But I want to ask you, is it hard for you to get this message across? Because I think, for example, when you cut your finger on a piece of paper, you can look at your finger and you can say, okay, this is why I hurt, because you can see exactly what happened in front of you. You can see the cut, you can see the blood, you can feel the pain. But with things like stress and anxiety, it's hard for people to put their finger on because they probably might not even realize that it's happening to them. And it's hard and even more stressful for them to try to deal with it emotionally because they don't even know, they can't put their finger on, they can't see the blood coming out of the cut on the finger, if you know what I mean. So do you find that with a lot of the people that you coach or teach or the companies that you help out with, is that one of the first things that you talk about is how to identify when you are feeling anxious, when you are feeling overly stressed, and when it is time to take a step in that mindfulness direction?
You've just hit the nail on the head, Steve. That's exactly it. Because again, we're all so conditioned now by all these devices. Our attention's been grabbed, it's been taken away. And we're all up here. We're disconnected from our body, our real self, and our body is our true nature. So we do not feel our way through the day anymore. We think our way through the day, which keeps our attention up, keeps us in fight or flight. And so that's the challenge. We have to get from the mind to the heart. And a lot of meditation practices that I teach are heart-centered. And when you focus your attention, you take it away from there to a place where you choose, not where somebody's trying to notify you on Facebook or text or social media and grabbing your attention and keeping it there externally. You turn it inwards and onto something that you know that you live with moment by moment. So you're immediately centered. You're immediately grounded. Even if you just now, Steve, and anybody that's watching, just bring your attention to your breath. If you're breathing, hopefully you are. Okay, take normal breathing in and out and acknowledge the breathing coming in and out of your nostril. You can do that now with your eyes open. You don't have to sit in any postures or wear beads or incense or whatever. That's the point. It's just everyday living. So you've noticed your breathing. Okay, it's coming in and out of the body through the nostrils.
I'm doing it now.
And all I want you to do now, cool. So all I want you to do now is extend the out breath. As you breathe out of the nose, just make it longer duration, not forcing it. Just let the belly just drop as you breathe out. Belly moves out as you breathe in. So do that again. Extend the out breath. Notice on the out breath if there's any shift inside you in terms of tension, physically or mentally, just by doing that.
Yeah, I feel noticeably less tense, to be honest with you.
Because the extended breath has activated your parasympathetic nervous system. You've just rebalanced just with a couple of out breaths. That's the power of it. With training, you physically equalize the feelings in the gut, because you have feelings in the gut, believe it or not. You have nerve cells, and the heart and the mind, they all get in sync, and that is coherence. You said at the start, he's going to tell you what coherence is. Coherence is when your gut, your heart, and your brain axis are all in sync. And you can do that just with a few breaths. The fight or flight switches off. You switch on the parasympathetic, which is rest and digest and relax. So you have restored balance to yourself in just a couple of breaths.
Wow.
And that's the power of it.
Okay.
Done it yourself.
why the workplace then? Let's get to that, because I can see, you and I mentioned in the opening that you do work with individuals as well, but you work with companies, and I wonder, it's an interesting point. Why did you want to bring this information into the workplace?
Yeah, through experience, I was lucky. I had 18 years in the army, and of course there was conflict between people and ranks and stuff. Doesn't matter how high how
Mm,
high up in the army you go, there's always somebody above you, right? And someone's going to be there getting you stood to attention with your feet together, even if I got high up. There's always somebody going to make you do that, and you're like, all that. So there's conflict. But in the army, there was a purpose, and we were all aligned to a purpose, and we felt like a team because we
hmm
trained blood, sweat, and tears as a team.
hmm
So you had that coherence and that alignment. We were fit and well and healthy. They look after us, right? So you're fit, well, and healthy. You're aligned to your purpose. Let's go. I then went into civilian life. I went straight into Cisco Systems in San Jose, and it was just, it couldn't have been more chalk and cheese. You're in these, faceless sort of hot desks, as they called them. Everything's done on email. Guy next to me, well, I got an email, one of my plays. It was like, "Hi, Ian, I want to discuss this player. What do you think about blah, blah, blah?"
He's
And I
two
was
feet
like,
away from you.
"Yeah," he said, "Hugh," and I was like, "Hugh, I know he, Hugh." I'm. He went, "Yeah." I said, Why don't you just communicate? Why don't you just talk, mate?" He said, "No, we don't do that, mate. It's all got to be on email." And that's the start of everything.
Mm,
And it became, human nature was just out of the way. It was all about procedures and in the name of efficiency. And the bosses, them, were all about dominance.
mm,
It wasn't about relatedness at all. You couldn't even relate to the guy sat next to you because it was all done via email. Suddenly I was losing what I had in the army, which was connection. And we were always out in the wild anyway, right? When we weren't fixing the kit, we were out in the vehicles day and night, stuff like that. So you felt connected with nature. So quickly I was losing connection with nature, and I was stuck in
mm,
these offices. I was being paid a
mm,
fortune. I lived in, you know, areas in London where John Lennon used to live in.
mm,
But I didn't realize it. And again, this goes back to what you're saying. Without me realizing, I was getting disconnected from my nature,
mm,
humanness. I was getting disconnected from myself. I was getting up here because everything was this all day on the screen. And the stress levels were then coming up. And then I noticed as well, to answer your question, just the conflicts.
mm,
The day-to-day conflicts was just all day, every day. People talking about each other. And it happened in every company I went to. I went to one in Barcelona. Catalans, fantastic people. I love them to bits. But they have a natural way of just wanting to rah 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 as
mm.
well. I think they do it as a release, maybe, I don't know. And the conflict was just draining, because I don't know how anyone was getting any work done, because it was people, in every company, and I mean in every country. I'm not picking. It's human nature at work to go there now, feel a sense of disconnection, especially these days, because you're worried about losing your job. That threat puts you into fight or flight. You're
Mm.
more likely to rah at people. Your boss is probably going to be quite dominant, not human nature relatedness. There's nobody doing anything to look at that, apart from on a kind of a discussion basis. It's all talking, isn't it? Let's talk about this and that. You need to turn inside, tune in, check in, how you're doing, what's really happening inside you right now. That immediately will calm you down anyway. You get coherence yourself. People outside of you nearby pick up that coherence.
Mm.
And if you practice that just once a day as a group, that dominance becomes a shared collective relatedness,
Within a
socialness.
within a company, and I'm reminded of a conversation that I had with her name was Mylene Rydal, I believe. Are you familiar with her? She's an
I'm not
author.
actually.
She wrote a book in 2014 called Happy as a Dane. I think it was an award-winning book. And I interviewed her because the book was translated into Korean, and she had come to Korea to tour the book a little bit, and then I think work with some companies as well. And I remember one of the questions that I asked for her, and the context of the book, Happy as a Dane, often in global indexes, Denmark will come in as number 1 or number 2 or 3 in terms of the global happiness index, but also in terms of employees at work. Apparently, Danish employees are number 1 on the list. I don't know if that's still true today, but at least at one point in time, around 2014, it was. But I remember I asked her, it must be a tremendous challenge because she was, in the workplace trying to convince people about similar concepts that you're talking about right now. And I said, doesn't it have to start at the very, very top, especially in a work culture like Korea, where what the boss says goes no matter what? And don't get me wrong, that's not just strict to Korea. That's true in many countries, many work cultures around the world. And I'll ask you the same question. Doesn't it have to start by convincing the top of the tree, as you said before, the top dog in the company, the CEO of the company? You need to teach your employees that mindfulness and well-being is important for them because it's going to be better for your company in the long run. Do you find that that's been the case for you a lot?
Yeah, for sure. I've knocked on a few doors several times. In the last 10 years, coming and going from Korea, because a few times we went back to Europe to live and work there too. I've definitely been knocking on doors, and sometimes I succeeded. I did some mindfulness work for JP Morgan. I did some for Kim and Chang, the lawyer firm in Gyeongbok, near Gyeongbokgung Palace. And what I found was, and I gave presentations in front of all the heads of sheds, the bosses, company bosses, to say, look, this isn't going to work unless you do it first. There is a perception of mindfulness as some kind of hippie woo-woo thing, of course, and a lot of people wearing robes and doing nothing. And that is very difficult, especially in Korea, because it's a culture, as you're more than aware, and the people that are watching, to do. It's not about being, and it's definitely not about feeling. It's about doing, bally, fighting, and all this. And that's got Korea a long way. Absolutely, it has. But it's not the only way. If you take it on that kind of yin yang balance, it's all just yang. It's yang all the time. People do sports and it's ra, isn't it? The proper balance is you must have a yin mode as well. Any wisdom tradition will tell you that, because without that, something's going to down the line break. You're an accident waiting to happen. All you need to do is understand a little bit about the mind. It's nothing to do with religion, philosophy. It accentuates what you believe in, because it's just about your true nature. That's all it is in reality, and how you can use these systems to realign yourself, get yourself back in alignment, to do a better job, to have more energy. And when you align with purpose, Steve, energy and purpose equals output. That's great for business. You're content in yourself. You don't feel sated anymore. You're coherent. There's not discord anymore. There's harmony. There's relatedness. It's not woo-woo, oh, you're amazing and blah, blah. It's just you feeling centered within yourself, which will be radiated to others around you.
Sure.
And they'll be like, how come this guy, whatever's going on around him, manages to keep, well, because he can step back from that thought stream.
It's an interesting power struggle, I think. And I don't know if that's the proper term or not. But these days, and again, to reference the Great Resignation, where 4.5 million Americans left their jobs in November of last year, there's a sense of entitlement is not the right word. Empowerment, perhaps, is the right word. And I believe in a survey, the results found that low pay was the number one reason people left their jobs. And another reason was no opportunities for advancement. And another reason was feeling disrespected at work. And that's kind of one that stood out to me. I understand all of this. But at the same time, companies will be forced to respond. And they have started to respond, because there was a survey done, and I'll reference this. I believe I found this on CNBC, from the World Economic Forum. They surveyed 300 global companies, and 43% of those companies expect to reduce their workforce with new technologies. Things like robot servers in restaurants and concierges and things like this.
Yeah.
So when I say power struggle, I mean, it is important for employees to feel respected and well paid and things of that nature at work. But also, I was thinking too, there's a bit of a fine line, I think, because if there's a mass exodus of people from their workplaces, well, companies, they don't have any other option but to look for another solution to keep their companies afloat, essentially, right? Yeah. So staying happy, I'm completely on board with what you're talking about. Staying happy while you are in your workplace, just running for the exit might not necessarily be the right solution for everyone all the time, right? It's like when you move to another country and you expect your problems to disappear. Well, that's not going to happen. Yeah. They're going to come with you, right?
Because what are you taking with you? The same mind,
the same brain,
same untrained mind.
So what are some of the things that you talk about? If you could give me a couple of examples, when you go into the workplace and you speak with employees, what are a couple of the things that you say?
I kind of adhere to that. I relate to what you're saying there, Steve, and I try and keep away from the word happiness because I prefer the word contentment, just being centered and grounded within yourself. Happiness will come and go, It's about just being centered and grounded within yourself and accepting reality, accepting the present moment. That's what I ask of people, accepting what's really going on right now. For example, if I was to ask, you, what's going on in your life right now, Steve?
Well, my show finished recently, so I started this podcast as something that I could do to enjoy. I've started to really take care of myself on a better level than I was before, exercising even more than I was before, and really just trying to enjoy myself because I didn't really have that long a break for over, the last 13 years. So in the beginning, it was stressful for me because my show was gone. And then I couldn't even enjoy the break in the beginning because I was so worried about that. But then finally something switched in my brain where I thought, when you start your work full time again, and I don't know where that's going to be, then you'll be back into the rat race, so to speak. So my brain said to my brain, if you will, dude, enjoy yourself. You're not going to have an opportunity like this again. And when that light bulb went off, then I just started to I wake up earlier in the morning. I'm out to get a coffee and enjoy the sunshine in the morning. I'm sorry for the very elongated answer.
Please go ahead. I've had my turn.
Yeah, but that's the truth. There was a light bulb that went off where I thought, do your podcast, enjoy your conversations with the guests that you're speaking with, like yourself today. And outside of that, just enjoy the time that you have off right now. So that's what's going on with me.
Right, absolutely. And in on that level, and thank you, it's fabulous story. On that level, it's there, okay, without a shadow of a doubt in that dimension. Now I'm going to flip it for you though, and shift it, because on an absolute level, and I'm talking about this moment. I said, what's going on in your life right now, in this present moment? Okay, when you look at it from a mindfulness perspective, what's really happening? So you gave me your storyline, Steve, okay, which was wonderful, and I've given you mine.
Yeah,
but we have this capacity to notice what we're thinking and what we're saying, and when you do that, you can step back from that because it's the storyline that causes all the problems. Remember. Guilt about the past, worried about the future, anxieties, whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
How can you get out of that trap? You need to break that storyline. And you can do that with a couple of breaths. What's really going on in your life right now, Steve, is you're sat on a chair in your radio station.
Yeah.
And you're talking to me. That's what's really going on in your life. When you take that storyline away, it's not disowning the storyline. It's beautiful. But the problem is we live in the storyline all the time. And that storyline is the thing that gets us into trouble. We're worried all the time because we think we're the story. We are not. We can step back from that, enter ourselves. What we are is a human being, and we're just being here at the moment. And when you focus your attention not on the storyline, you drop back out of it onto something you would like, just by watching your breath coming in and out, in and out. On its own, that's a really powerful exercise when you practice daily. Thich Nhat Hanh taught the same exercise on the internet for nearly 30 years. I used to think, what? But when you know what he's doing and he knows what he's doing, it's centering you. If you're thinking storyline, you're getting wound up. You're stuck in it. And that's what we do at work. If you're focusing just on your breathing coming in and out of the nostrils, the cold air coming in and out, your attention can't be anywhere else. The body will automatically return to the present moment, to what's real in your life, what's actually real.
Okay.
Homeostasis returns. Your heart rate slows down. You go from beta to alpha waves where you're more relaxed in the brain. The stomach wants to digest again instead of rah and all this. So you come back to the present moment, and that's what I teach people in the office. You are in your mind all the time, and I understand that you've got work to do. But what's happened, Steve, is we've become a dominant, loaded workforce. We've been told that we're there to achieve goals. We've been told we're there to problem solve. We're up here all the time. We've not been told that, by the way, you need to restore and relax outside that sometimes as well. Because when you do that, energy will come back to you and health and well-being will come back to you.
You're absolutely spot on, aren't you? Because people tend to, you call it a storyline. I'll call it the chaos around them.
Right.
People tend to define themselves by what's happening around them, as opposed to what's happening to them.
Yeah.
I feel like I just had a therapy session.
But it's definitely not therapy.
But no, it is therapeutic in a sense, because it kind of reminds you that you're still a human being. You're still an individual, a person in this in this particular moment. But
that's social mindfulness.
That is social
reminding yourself that you, at your very nature, you are human nature. And that's what businesses do not do. And we're disconnected from that and from each other. And it's just stress.
So that being said,
all the money in the world doesn't matter.
I will play devil's advocate for just a moment. That's not something that we can do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is just constantly remind ourselves of what's going on around us. So is there a recommended number of times that we do that throughout the day, where we kind of almost schedule it? Do you recommend scheduling it, or is it just you do? Okay. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. People can, and they use, I think they use it as an analogy, I'm sure. They say that the mind is like a muscle. You train it in the gym, you repeat. The mind isn't a muscle, because the mind isn't actually a material thing. The brain isn't a muscle either. It's an organ. I'd love to talk about that, by the way, organ and music, but that's down the line. So the point is, repetition is what changes your brain. At the moment, our brains have been wired by the way we think. How we think wires our brain, Steve, is called neuroplasticity. So if we're negative all the time, we are wired to be negative all the time. If we're stressed all day, we are wired to be stressed. We actually begin to enjoy being stressed. We wouldn't know what to do with ourselves if we had to sit still, especially sit still in silence. We were like, what do I do now? It's totally foreign to us now. Never used to be. It's totally foreign. It's been, our attention, like I say, has been stolen, and our ability to restore and relax and reclaim our attention to do what we want to do has been lost. So yes, you have a daily practice, and it can start literally just when I teach people, especially the ones that I can see they're in total chaos. It's probably going to be a 3-minute breathwork exercise I'll start with, and I'll say that do that, please, just for a few days, and then come back to me. We'll have our next session. And of course, at first they're like, who is this lunatic? I need fixing. And
you're just telling me to do something I've already been doing, breathing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But they haven't even, but the difference is, Steve, they don't even know they're breathing. They haven't noticed. They haven't noticed for years. How many times have you been doing something, okay, and you're on the computer, whatever, and you stopped breathing? And all of a sudden, You've stopped breathing, isn't it? Or how many other times have you got agitated with someone or somebody outside, inside, whatever, and all of a sudden you're like, da, 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 da. Check your breathing out when you're doing that. You're breathing from the chest, which is not good. Okay. It's agitated. You are in fight or flight. You don't even know it's happening. So people aren't even aware they're breathing anymore. So the first thing is, and breath, you start because it's with you 24/7. But most of us breathe dysfunctionally. So we start with the breath, and that's the start of your practice. And literally, I will say to people, for 7 days, I just want you to do this breathing exercise. Maybe the next week, we'll go on to a body scan exercise, which is tense, releasing the muscles. What that's doing, by the way, is actually triggering your vagus nerve inside of you, which is your healing nerve. Its vagus nerve is in touch with every part of your body. So if you're squeezing, relaxing intentionally with your intention just on that, your vagus nerve goes, boom, I can relax now. Thank God for that. Like a guitar, it'll tune back up again and you're back in tune. You'll relax, you'll return to homeostasis just by doing that. Tensing the feet, relaxing, keeping your attention on it. Try it now, Steve. Okay, take a deep breath in and out. Extend the out breath. Wonderful. If it's safe to do so, close your eyes. If anybody's watching, please don't do it. Don't close your eyes if it's not safe. Bring your attention to your feet. Everywhere else stays relaxed. You keep on breathing. Just squeeze your toes together and keep your attention on squeezing the toes. Tense, 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 tense. And then relax. Let that tension go. Feel the relaxation in your toes right now. And now bring your attention to your thighs. Squeeze the thighs together. Muscles in the thighs. Squeeze, squeeze. Everywhere else is relaxed. Just the thighs. Keep your attention there. Tense, tense. And relax, relax, relax. Feel that relaxation now in your legs, all the way down to your feet. Squeeze the belly button now into the spine. You're sucking your belly button in, just the belly muscles, tense, tense, tight, tight, and relax. Feel that relaxation there too. Okay, not long to go. Lift the shoulders up to the ears and feel the tension in the neck. Tense it, tense it, tense it, and relax. Drop the shoulders away from the ears, drop them down. Feel that relaxation now flowing through the body. Now your arms and your fists, tense them. So you're like fisting as if you're boxing, squeeze those muscles. This is a great one because there's so many nerves in the hands and fingers. Relax, stretch the fingers. Feel the fingers relax, and there's a tingling sensation, isn't there? As everything's starting to relax. And last but not least, I love this one. Think bulldog chewing a wasp. Tense every muscle on your face as if you're really squeezing the eyes, the mouth, the nose. Really go for it. I know it looks silly. You wouldn't do this on the tube, of course. And relax and release the face muscles. How many muscles are in the face and jaw you've just relaxed? One last big deep breath and relax everything from head to toe as you do it. In through the nose, out through the mouth with a big sigh. You just on your vagus nerve, the parasympathetic system. You switched off fight or flight. You've done that yourself.
You know what?
Your body is now a million times weller.
Honestly, I just feel like I've woken up from a nap.
It's called the Great Awakening, I call it. That's the next, hopefully that'll be our next chat. The Great Awakening is my mission. Wake everyone up.
Thank you so much for that. Tell us about the website now. Let's get on to that. Zenbok. Am I saying that right? Zenbok or Zenbok?
Yeah, Zenbok, Zen body of knowledge. Wisdom traditions treat the mind, body, and emotions as one thing. They call it the body.
Yeah.
So it's giving you the knowledge to understand how your mind works, just simply. You don't have to be a neuroscientist, so that you know how it works and you can use it to heal and work for you. Likewise with the body, simple stuff like you just did there. That's a movement exercise, really, isn't it? You're moving.
Yeah.
And you're switching on that healing process. And we do a bit of emotional work, which tends to be breath work, that type of thing. So Zenbok is about mindful resilience and well-being. It's empowering people to look after themselves, self-care, self-repair.
Yeah.
Rather than giving it over straight away to the doc. Doctors do wonderful things. So do psychologists.
That's not to discount the value of doctors in our society at all. Right?
Absolutely not. They do things I couldn't do in a million years, especially the really acute stuff and the chronic stuff. My sister was a high intensity therapist, CBT. She treated the guys coming back from Afghanistan. I couldn't do what she could do in a million years. Absolutely not. But hopefully I'm the step before the doc, where you say, what if there's another dimension to me where I can heal myself? And mindfulness has been around for so long.
Yeah.
And in Korea, they're a little bit behind, although there are a couple of organizations I'm starting to connect with that are advanced now. Never used to be 5-6 years ago. Businesses look at me like I'm some kind of hippie. You want my people to sit there do nothing. That's probably my fault for not getting it across properly to them. It's a matter of time before all the businesses here do it, because it's good for the people, it's good for coherence, it's good for their health, well-being. Productivity will come. Just naturally, won't it? Of course it will, when you're engaged, healthy, and happy at work.
And when I was younger, this is probably not something that you would have been able to convince me to do, but I've had a perspective kind of shift, if you will. And I think about it like this.
Great word, shift.
If you're willing to go to the gym, or if you're willing to change your diet, or if you're willing to take diet pills, or if you're willing to go to the doctor, those are all things that you're doing to benefit you. Some of them might work, some of them might not work. But if this is another option to bring you some sort of inner peace might be too strong a term, but just another avenue for self-improvement, then why not go down that avenue?
Contentment, Steve.
Yeah, contentment. I do agree with you. I think there is a stigma with this kind of conversation where people think, oh, okay, this is some sort of like hippie meditative weirdo thing. But it's not. It's not at all.
It's human nature.
It's so simple. It's so simple. And I hope that stigma can disappear someday. And with people like yourself working hard to get rid of that and help people achieve their own kind of inner contentment, eventually that will disappear. People can contact you. Companies can contact you through your website, should they be interested in your services.
Yes, please. It's feel free. It's just a general chat. I promise you, I won't do exercises or anything like that with you. Just as we've done today, as Steve has just so marvelously guided us through this process of hopefully giving you a bit more understanding of what mindfulness really is. It's attentional training. Okay, it's human nature. It's getting you back in touch with yourself. So www.zenbok.org. ZEN, N for November, BOK. Zenbok.org. Please get in touch and see what I'm up to there. I'm involved in some amazing partners in America where I'm teaching over mindfulness apps as well, live coaching over mindfulness apps that can check how you're breathing. It can check how your posture is, like in a gamified thing. So check out those as well, because it's getting really exciting. I'm not against technology. I was a technologist. I was an engineer. Technology, when you use it, is absolutely perfect as a supplement to just doing your natural work here. Okay. And there's some great apps, multi-award-winning apps that I'm working with, and teams, and they all have one thing in mind. They just want you to stress less, be mindful, and be aligned to your purpose, whatever your purpose is, building a business, getting on with people at work, just being a great mom and dad, a great parent. That's where mindfulness will help you. So please get in touch. Thanks,
wonderful.
Steve.
Fantastic. Ian Matthews, really fascinating conversation. Thank you so much, sir.
Likewise.
Thank you for your service. I wanted to say that again in the beginning of our conversation. Thank you for your service in the British Army. And best of luck to you. I hope we can chat again someday.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks, Steve, and take care, mate.
Thank you, sir. You too.
Cheers.
Once again, a special thank you to my guest today, Ian Matthews. It's so interesting. We're in constant pursuit of happiness and calm and well-being, and we know the standard ways that we're supposed to do it, but this opened up a new avenue for us today. I think at least it did for me, and I hope it did for you as well. Once again, thank you to Ian. Don't forget, hit subscribe, hit like, share the video, and leave a comment down below as well. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you come back for the next one.